My name is Lauren, and I never thought I would be sitting in a packed courtroom, wearing a black dress I bought from Target an hour before I had to walk through those heavy wooden doors. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the paper cup of coffee my sister Brienne forced into my palms outside the courthouse steps. She told me to breathe. She told me to stand up straight. She told me not to embarrass the family. Those were her exact words. Not, "I love you." Not, "We believe you." Just don't embarrass us. I am 32 years old, and I have spent my entire life trying to make my family proud. My dad is a retired firefighter from outside Chicago. My mom taught second grade for 30 years. They live in a brick split level in Naperville, with a flag on the porch and a labradoodle named Gus. My older brother Matt is a financial advisor with a wife named Kristen, who posts perfect Thanksgiving photos. My sister Brienne married a dentist and lives in Hinsdale in a house that could be on a magazine cover. And then there is me, the youngest, the one who could never quite get it right. I met Kyle when I was 26. I was working as a marketing coordinator for a small firm downtown. He was a sales director for a medical device company. We matched on Hinge. His profile had a picture of him holding a fish and another of him in a suit at a wedding. I almost swiped left because of the fish, but his smile was easy. His messages were funny. He showed up to our first date at a gastropub in Logan Square with a single yellow rose, because he said yellow was for friendship, and he wanted to build a friendship first. That should have been my first clue that he knew exactly what to say. We dated for 2 years before he proposed. He did it at a rooftop bar during sunset. My friends were hiding behind a potted plant, filming the whole thing. I cried, he cried, everyone clapped. When I called my mom, she said, "Finally," like I had been late for a meeting. But I was happy. I was so happy. I thought I had finally done something right. The wedding was small, by my sister's standards, 120 people, a barn venue in the western suburbs with fairy lights and mason jars. My dad walked me down the aisle to a string quartet playing a song I picked out months in advance. Kyle wrote his own vows. He said I made him want to be a better man. He said he would spend every day proving that he deserved me. I look back at those words now, and I realize he was telling the truth. He just didn't mean it the way I thought he did. The first year of marriage was good. Not perfect, but good. We bought a townhouse in Elmhurst. We got a golden retriever puppy we named Wrigley because we are those people. We talked about kids. We argued about money and whose turn it was to walk the dog and why he left his socks on the coffee table. Normal stuff. I thought we were building a life. I thought we were solid. The cracks started around year 2. Kyle began working late more often. He said his territory was expanding. He said he was up for a promotion. I believed him, because why wouldn't I? He was my husband. He came home smelling like whiskey sometimes, but he said it was client dinners. He was distracted on weekends. He kept his phone face down on every surface. When I asked him about it, he laughed and said I was being paranoid. He said his mom did the same thing to his dad and it almost destroyed their marriage. So I stopped asking. I told myself I was being insecure. I told myself to trust him. Then I found the lingerie. It was a Tuesday night. Kyle was in Dallas for a conference. I was doing laundry because the pile had become a health hazard. I reached into the back of his closet to grab a hoodie he never wore, and my hand touched lace. Black lace. Something I had never seen before. Something I had never owned. It was a bodysuit with garters attached. The tags were still on. Size small. I am a size 8. I sat on our bedroom floor with that thing in my hands for what felt like an hour. My brain kept trying to find an explanation. Maybe it was a gift for me he forgot to give, but it wasn't my size. Maybe it belonged to a previous tenant, but we had lived there for 2 years. Maybe he bought it as a joke, but Kyle didn't do jokes like that. The truth was sitting in my throat like a stone. I just didn't want to swallow it. I waited until he got home. I didn't confront him at the airport. I didn't call him screaming. I made dinner. I acted normal. I let him tell me about Dallas and the clients and the steakhouse they went to. I let him kiss me goodnight. And then, when he went to take a shower, I put the lingerie on his pillow. He came out of the bathroom with a towel around his waist and stopped cold. The color drained from his face. I have never seen a person lose color like that. It was like watching a photograph fade. He opened his mouth and closed it. And then he did something I will never forget. He looked at me with pure pity, like I was a child who had just discovered Santa wasn't real. He said it wasn't what I thought. I asked him what it was then. She said, "Your sister and I talked, and we think you should try counseling before you do anything drastic." My sister knew. My mom had already called her. They had already discussed my marriage like it was a committee decision. I did what they said. I went to counseling. Kyle went with me twice and then said the therapist was biased against men, so I went alone. I sat on a beige couch in a beige office and told a woman named Diane that I didn't know if my husband was cheating on me. She asked me what my gut said. I told her my gut said yes. She asked me why I wasn't listening to it, and I started crying because I knew the answer. I wasn't listening because my family taught me that my feelings were dramatic, that I was too sensitive, that I needed to calm down and stop making everything about me. I stayed for another 6 months. 6 months of wondering, 6 months of checking his phone when he was in the shower, 6 months of smelling his shirts for perfume, 6 months of feeling like I was going crazy. Kyle got better at hiding things, or maybe I got worse at looking because I couldn't take the pain of finding something new. I told myself I would leave if I found proof. I told myself I deserved answers, but I was scared. I was scared of being alone. I was scared of being the divorced daughter. I was scared of my mom saying I told you so. The proof came from a text message, not to Kyle, to me. It was a Friday night in October. Kyle said he was going to a football watch party at a friend's house. I said okay, because I had stopped asking questions. I was watching a movie on the couch with Wrigley when my phone buzzed. The number wasn't saved. The message said, "I think you should know your husband has been sleeping with my wife for over a year." There were screenshots attached. Texts between Kyle and a woman named Amanda. Dirty texts. Planning texts. Texts where Kyle called her his soulmate. Texts where he said he would leave me as soon as the timing was right. Texts where they laughed about how stupid I was for not figuring it out. I read every word 3 times. Then I threw up in the kitchen sink. The man who sent the message was named David. He was Amanda's husband. He had found everything a week earlier and had been trying to decide how to tell me. He said he was sorry. He said he knew how much this hurt. He said he had already filed for divorce. He asked if I wanted to meet. I said yes, because I needed to see another person who understood what I was going through. We met at a diner in Oak Brook. David was 42 with gray in his beard and dark circles under his eyes. He ordered coffee and didn't drink it. He told me everything. How Kyle and Amanda met at a work conference in Nashville 2 years ago. How they started as friends and then it turned into more. How they had been seeing each other at least twice a month. How Kyle had told Amanda that I was cold and distant and that we hadn't had sex in months, which was a lie. How Amanda had told David she was in love with Kyle. How Kyle had told Amanda he loved her too, but he needed to be careful because his family would never accept him leaving me for someone else. His family, not mine. He was worried about what his parents would think. I sat in that diner booth and I felt something break inside me. Not my heart. My heart had been cracking for months. Something else broke. Something that had been holding me together. And when it broke, I didn't fall apart. I went quiet. I went still. I went cold. I called a lawyer the next morning. Her name was Patricia. She was 63 with bright red lipstick and no patience for tears. She looked at the screenshots. She looked at the lingerie photos I had saved. She asked me if I wanted alimony. I said I wanted everything the law would give me. She smiled and said, "Good girl." Patricia told me to gather financial records, to save every text, to not move out of the house, to not confront Kyle until she gave me the green light. I followed every instruction like my life depended on it, because in a way it did. My life as I knew it was ending. The only thing I could control was how I walked away. I confronted Kyle on a Sunday morning. Patricia had filed the papers. A process server was waiting at our front door. I made coffee. I fed the dog. I sat on the couch and waited for Kyle to come downstairs. When he did, I looked at him and I didn't feel love. I didn't feel hate. I felt nothing. That was worse than both. He asked me what was wrong. I told him I knew about Amanda. He blinked. He said, "I don't know anyone named Amanda." I told him to stop lying. He said I was being crazy again. I told him David had sent me everything. His face changed. The mask slipped. I saw him for who he really was for the first time. Not the man who gave me yellow roses. Not the man who wrote beautiful vows. A coward. A liar. A man who looked at me across our living room and said, "You drove me to this." He said I was too needy. He said I was too emotional. He said I didn't understand his job or his stress. He said Amanda was easy to be with because she didn't ask for anything. He said maybe if I had been a better wife, none of this would have happened. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just watched him. And then the doorbell rang. He looked at me confused. I didn't move. He opened the door and the process server handed him the divorce papers. Kyle read them standing in the doorway. His face went through so many expressions I couldn't track them all. Shock, rage, panic, fear. He turned to me and said, "You're really doing this?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You're going to regret this." I said, "I already regret marrying you." He slammed the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. That was the last time we spoke face to face. The divorce took 8 months. 8 months of depositions and negotiations and mediation sessions where Kyle pretended to be the victim. He told his lawyer I was unstable. He told my lawyer I had anger issues. He told anyone who would listen that I was making up the affair for sympathy. But I had evidence. I had David. I had screenshots. I had hotel receipts I found on our joint credit card statements. Patricia took him apart, piece by piece. And then my family got involved. My mom called me one night and said she had talked to Kyle's mom. They had agreed that this whole thing was getting out of hand. She said Kyle was willing to go back to counseling. She said he was willing to change. She said a divorce would be such a shame for the family. She asked me to think about what people would say. She asked me to think about the holidays. She asked me to think about my dad's blood pressure. I told her he cheated on me for 2 years. She said people make mistakes. I told her he called me crazy. She said marriage is hard. I told her I was done. She said I was being stubborn. And then she handed the phone to my dad. My dad is not a talker. He is a doer. He fixes things. He built our deck himself. He replaced the transmission on my first car. He shows love through action, not words. So when he got on the phone and said, "Lauren, please just think about this," I knew my mom had been working on him for days. He said he didn't want to see me throw everything away over pride. He said Kyle was a good man who made a bad choice. He said nobody was perfect. He said he and my mom had been through worse and they stayed together. I asked him if my mom had cheated on him for 2 years. He was quiet. I asked him if my mom had lied to his face every single day. He was quiet. I asked him if he would want me to stay with a man who made me feel like I was losing my mind. He said that was different. I asked him how. He didn't have an answer. My sister Brianne came over the next day. She brought a salad from Sweet Green and a list of reasons why I should reconsider. She wrote them on a yellow legal pad like she was presenting a business case. Reason 1, financial stability. Reason 2, family reputation. Reason 3, my age. She said I was 32 and divorced, which was not the same as 32 and single. She said men would look at me differently. She said I needed to think about my future children. I asked her if she hurt herself. She said she was just trying to help. I asked her if her husband cheated on her, would she stay? She said that was a hypothetical. I said no, it wasn't. She said Kyle was different. I said how? She said he was under a lot of pressure at work. I asked her if she heard how pathetic that sounded. She called me bitter. I asked her to leave. My brother Matt sent a text. He said he loved me, but he thought I was making a mistake. He said Kyle had reached out to him and seemed genuinely sorry. He said forgiveness was a virtue. He said he hoped I would come to the family barbecue next month and not make things awkward. Not make things awkward. My husband cheated on me for 2 years, and I was the one making things awkward. The divorce was finalized in June. I got the townhouse. I got the dog. I got a fair financial settlement. Kyle got to walk away and start a new life with Amanda. That's exactly what he did. They were living together within 3 months, engaged within 6. I found out through a mutual friend who saw the ring on Instagram. Amanda posted a photo of her hand on Kyle's chest. The caption said, "When you know, you know." I threw my phone across the room and cracked the screen. I tried to move on. I went to therapy. I joined a gym. I dated a little. I matched with a guy named Josh who was nice but boring. I matched with a guy named Mike who was exciting but mean. I went on 14 first dates in 8 months. None of them turned into second dates. Not because the guys were bad, but because I was broken. I didn't know how to trust anyone. I didn't know how to believe words anymore. Every man who told me he liked me, I assumed was lying. Every text that came in late, I assumed was proof of another woman. I was exhausted. I was lonely. I was angry. And then my sister got engaged. Brienne had been dating her dentist boyfriend for 2 years. He proposed at the same rooftop bar where Kyle proposed to me. She said it was a coincidence. I said it was cruel.
She said I needed to stop making everything about my divorce. I said she needed to stop being a terrible sister. She cried. My mom took her side. My dad stayed quiet. The family barbecue that Matt had mentioned came and went without an invitation for me. I spent Thanksgiving alone with Wrigley. I ordered Chinese food and watched bad movies. I told myself I was fine. I was not fine. I was hollow. I was a person-shaped hole where a person used to be. The wedding was set for the following October. Brienne asked me to be a bridesmaid. She said it would mean a lot to her. She said she wanted me there. She said we could put the past behind us. I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell her to find someone else to wear a dusty rose dress and pretend to be happy. But I said yes, because I was still trying to earn my family's approval, even after everything, even after they chose Kyle over me, even after they told me to stay quiet and not embarrass them. I still wanted them to love me. The wedding was at a country club in Lake Forest, the kind of place with crystal chandeliers and valet parking, and a cake that cost more than my first car. There were 200 guests. I knew most of them. They knew me. They knew about the divorce. They knew about Kyle. I could feel their eyes on me as I walked down the aisle behind Brienne. I could hear the whispers. Poor Lauren. Such a shame. She used to be so happy. I stood at the altar and watched my sister marry a man she barely knew.
He was nice enough. He made good money. He had good teeth. But I had seen the way he looked at other women at the rehearsal dinner. I had seen the way he texted under the table. I had seen the red flags, but I didn't say anything because I had learned my lesson. Speaking up got me uninvited from barbecues. Speaking up made me the problem. The ceremony ended. The cocktail hour started. I drank 2 glasses of champagne on an empty stomach. I made small talk with aunts and uncles who asked me if I was seeing anyone. I said I was focused on myself. They said that was healthy. They meant it was sad. Dinner was served. Speeches were made. The best man told a story about how the groom once drove 2 hours to bring the bride soup when she was sick. Everyone clapped. I thought about how Kyle used to bring me coffee in bed every morning, how he used to leave little notes in my suitcase when I traveled, how he used to be so good at pretending to love me. The dancing started. I was standing near the bar when I saw Kyle. He was standing by the patio doors. He was wearing a gray suit I had never seen before. His hair was different, shorter. He looked older. He looked tired. And standing next to him with her hand on his arm was Amanda. She was blonde. Of course she was blonde. She was thin. Of course she was thin. She was wearing a blue dress that showed off her shoulders. She was smiling at something Kyle said. Kyle was looking at me. Our eyes locked across the dance floor. The music was loud. The lights were low. People were laughing and spinning and living their lives. And I was frozen in place with a champagne glass in my hand and a hole in my chest where my heart used to be. Kyle said something to Amanda and started walking toward me. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. He stopped 2 feet away, close enough that I could smell his cologne, the same cologne he wore when we were married, the one I bought him for his birthday 2 years in a row. He said, "Hi, Lauren." I said nothing. He said, "You look good." I still said nothing. He said, "I know you probably don't want to talk to me, but I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything." His voice was soft. His face was soft. He looked like the man I married. He looked like the man who held my hand in the hospital when I had my appendix out. He looked like the man who cried at our wedding. He looked like someone who deserved forgiveness. And then I remembered the texts, the lies, the years of feeling crazy, the lingerie on his pillow, the way he said I drove him to it, the way he said I wasn't enough, the way he built a whole second life behind my back and then blamed me for not noticing. I said, "You brought her here." He said, "Amanda? She's with me." I said, "You brought your mistress to my sister's wedding?" He said, "It was a long time ago." I said, "It was 2 years." He said, "We've both moved on." I said, "I haven't moved on. I'm standing right here in the same place you left me." He looked down at his shoes. He said, "I really am sorry, Lauren. I hope someday you can forgive me." I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my champagne in his face. I wanted to tell him that sorry doesn't fix anything, that sorry doesn't give me back the years I wasted, that sorry doesn't unhear the things he said about me, that sorry doesn't make my family look at me the same way. But I didn't say any of that, because behind Kyle, I saw my mom. She was standing near the cake table, watching us. Her face was tight. Her eyes were hard. She shook her head once. Just once. A small motion that only I could see. The message was clear. Don't embarrass us. So I smiled. I smiled at Kyle and I said, "It's okay. I forgive you." I said it like I meant it. I said it like I had healed and grown and moved on. I said it because my mother was watching, because my father was watching, because my sister was dancing with her new husband and everyone was having such a lovely time, and I would not be the one to ruin it. Kyle smiled back. He looked relieved. He looked like he had been carrying something heavy, and I had just lifted it off his shoulders. He said, "Thank you." He said, "That means a lot." He went back to Amanda. She put her arm around his waist. He kissed her forehead, and I stood there with my champagne glass, and my fake smile, and my breaking heart. The night went on. I danced with my dad. He told me he was proud of me. I didn't ask for what. I hugged my mom. She said, "See, that wasn't so hard." I congratulated my sister. She said, "Thanks for being here." I said, "Thanks for inviting me." We both knew I was lying. I left at 10:30. I said my goodbyes. I walked to my car in the dark. Nothing like the one I thought I would have. I didn't tell my family what happened. I didn't tell them about the lingerie or the texts or the diner with David. I didn't tell them about the nights I spent crying in the shower so they wouldn't hear. I didn't tell them about the anxiety attacks in the grocery store when I saw a man who looked like Kyle. I didn't tell them because they didn't want to know. They wanted the story where I was fine. They wanted the version where I forgave and forgot and stayed classy. They wanted the daughter who didn't make waves. So I gave them what they wanted. I showed up to holidays. I posted photos on Instagram of me and Wrigley smiling. I told people I was doing great. I dated a few more men. I pretended to be happy. And every night I came home and ate dinner alone and watched TV alone and fell asleep alone. I was so good at pretending that I almost believed it myself. That was 2 years ago. I am 34 now. I still live in Elmhurst. I still have Wrigley. I still have the townhouse. My sister is pregnant with her first child. My brother got a promotion. My parents are retired and bored and constantly asking when I'm going to settle down. They don't ask about Kyle. They don't ask about the divorce. They have erased that chapter. They have decided that I am better now, that I am over it, that I am ready to try again. But I am not over it. I don't know if I ever will be. Not because I still love Kyle. I don't. I stopped loving him the moment I saw that lingerie. Not because I want revenge. I don't. Revenge is just another way of staying tethered to someone who hurt you. I am not over it because I am still trying to figure out who I am without him, without my family's approval, without the performance of being fine. I started writing this down a few months ago. My therapist said it might help. She said I needed to stop carrying the story inside me. She said I needed to tell it, even if no one was listening. So I am telling it now. To you. Whoever you are. Maybe you have been through something similar. Maybe you have felt the pressure to be quiet, to not embarrass anyone, to swallow your pain so other people can be comfortable. I want you to know that you don't have to. You don't have to forgive. You don't have to smile. You don't have to protect the people who failed to protect you. You are allowed to be angry. You are allowed to be broken. You are allowed to take up space with your grief. I am still learning that. I am still learning how to say no, how to disappoint my parents without feeling like I am dying. How to be alone without being lonely. How to trust a man again. How to trust myself again. I don't have answers. I don't have a happy ending. I have a golden retriever and a therapist and a townhouse full of silence. But some days that feels like enough. Some days I wake up and I don't think about Kyle at all. Some days I catch myself laughing at something stupid on TV and I realize I am okay. Not fine, not great, but okay. And okay is a good place to start. If you are listening to this and you are in the middle of your own nightmare, I want you to know that you will survive it. Not because you are strong, not because you are brave, because you have no choice. The world keeps spinning, the sun keeps rising, and one day you will wake up and the pain will be a little smaller, and then smaller, and then small enough to carry. My name is Lauren. I am 34 years old. My family called me dramatic. They called me difficult. They called me don't embarrass us. But I am still here. I am still standing. And I am finally ready to stop pretending.